Good morning. Welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're having a great month and a great year. Did you know that this is month 5? We're almost halfway done. That is just cray, isn't it? Just totally crazy that we've gone this far into the year, and it's like, whew, just flying by. Some days go a little. Some days crawl and some days fly by, right? So I hope today is a flyby day for you because that means things are probably going well and you're not stopping and thinking about really hard things you have to work through, right? So the slower days are usually heavier days. There's more things you've got to deal with, more things you've got to try to figure out and work through and all that, right? So today hopefully will be a flyby day because you'll be doing things you enjoy, that you'll love your work. That's God's blessing. You know that? Talk about, if you read through Proverbs, which there's 31 chapters on Proverbs, and every other month or so some months have 31 days. It's perfect to read a proverb a day. And if you read Proverbs, it talks about it's a joy. It's His blessing to be able to work, to be able to take care of others, to be able to live, to be able to. It's the real blessing is to be able to work and enjoy it. I pray that you enjoy your work. I enjoy some of my work. So anyway, I do hope today is going good for you too. So much for rattling. Okay, I'm waiting for everybody to get on. So I had this thought yesterday, and it was, I was listening to some old recordings of a preacher, and they mentioned something, and I was like, holy cow. And so I just let myself camp there. Now that's the same thing I do when I'm reading a scripture and I find something that just jumps out at me and grabs me. I just stop. I don't care if I'm trying to read the Bible through another year. I don't care if I'm trying to read so many verses for the day. When something grabs me and gets my attention, I just stop and camp there. I'll meditate on it. I'll think about it. How can I apply that? Does that apply in all these areas of my life? And I pray and ask God to let me understand more about what this is saying and why that exploded inside of me, right? Well, this person said something that exploded inside of me. So I've been thinking about it ever since, and I can't shake it because it helped me reshape my thoughts about some of the things I'm doing and maybe not doing too, right? Because sometimes, I'm just going to be honest here and just vulnerable and transparent here, but sometimes I feel like a huge mess up. I feel like I mess up everything I touch, everything I get myself in a bind here and get myself in a bind there, said too much there, paid too much there, bought the wrong car, did the wrong, I am my own worst critic, and I'm learning to, turn those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. I'm working on that, right? But it's really too easy for me to get down on myself. I know nobody else in the world is like that, right? But it can be so easy to just start thinking you're just the dumbest ball of human flesh there ever was, right? And so you think about these things. And so they were talking about the story of Abraham. And we know the story of Abraham. God promised Abraham, we go back to Genesis 15 along in there. God promises Abraham Isaac. He promises him that he's going to have a child, even though Sarah is far beyond childbearing years. And it was because God likes to do stuff that we think is impossible. Because in our minds, that's not even possible. But we can look at the scriptures, and we can look at Mary, we can look at Hannah, we can look at all these different, and we can look at Sarah and see that God brought fruitfulness from barrenness over and over and over again. But we're looking at hindsight. He's looking at something that he's never heard of God doing before. He didn't know of anybody God had touched. And he didn't know he didn't know his own story, right? He hasn't written it yet. He didn't know his own story. And so, he's like, okay, but it says in Hebrews that he believed God. Romans 4, I believe it says he believed God when it looked impossible. He believed in the possibilities of God. And so he trusted God by faith, and God brought about Isaac. But before Isaac came, let's back up the story a little bit. Because Abraham and Sarah got a little tired of waiting, right? I mean, we think of Abraham, he's the father of our faith. And yes, he is. And we're part of that sand of the sea that God promised him. We're part of the innumerable stars in the sky. We're part of that's our heritage spiritually. He's the father of our faith. Period. He's the first one that really said, we're going to just believe God like this, beyond possibility, beyond what we can even conceive and think in our minds, right? But before Isaac came on the scene, they got a little antsy, and Sarah said, why don't you just take Hagar and why don't you just go make a baby, and then we'll just help God out, because I don't think God's coming through. I think maybe God has another way. So Abraham's like, all right then, he's a guy, he's gonna go with it, right? And they have Ishmael, who is still plaguing us today. We'll say that line still is. But here's the part that just grabbed my heart. They messed that up. They tried to do God's job. Guilty. Yeah, no, you're not. I'm guilty, right? They tried to do God's job because the picture wasn't coming together in their head, and the time kept clicking, and they're not seeing it, and it's not here, and I don't know, and I know God said it, and I know he's going to do, but it's not just looking right yet, and he hasn't answered me yet, and I don't know, so let's just do this. And you know what? God didn't say, you dummy, you messed up. You created a whole lineage, because I'm going to bless everything you do, Abraham. They're going to be a whole race of people, their own people, but they're not going to be the good kind of seed, right? This going to trouble the world the rest of these days. But he didn't say, I'm not going to give you Isaac now. You messed it up. Forget it. Forget everything I said. God did not do that. Even though they tried to do it on their own. And God probably said, right? He does that with me a lot. I'm sure he does. He probably rolls his eyes a lot, like, oh my gosh, there she goes again. Or it's like, come back over here. You know what I said? Right. But he did not say, I'm not giving you an Isaac now. He still gave them Isaac. He still kept his promise to them. That got me right there. He still kept his promise, even though they acted so foolishly. They tried to do it in their own power and in their own strength. And what I love about that is that God didn't throw away what he promised them because of their mess up, because their lack of judgment in that moment. Because sometimes I feel like I have lack of judgment. I feel like I do dumb things, and I do dumb things. I do, right? And yet God doesn't go, I'm taking back everything. Just forget everything I ever said. No, he does not do that ever. He's still got us, and he doesn't say, since you did that, you're going to have to erase this one, erase this verse, take an eraser, or tear that page out because that doesn't apply anymore because you messed up. I love that about God. He doesn't take anything back because I didn't understand it. He doesn't take anything back because I don't know how to apply it. He doesn't take anything back because I misunderstood it and tried to do it in my own strength and in my own way, in the way that made sense, which is always the wrong way, and it's not faith, right? But he does not take back his promise because of my failures or my inability to comprehend what he said. He just keeps his promise all the time. He is so faithful. Even when we're dumb, he is so faithful. He still gave them Isaac. And that is still just reverberating in my soul that he's going to keep his word even when we don't get it. And that's why we know today we can peace out, because he still gave it to us. He doesn't say, I'm taking it back. You don't know how to use it properly until you learn the rules. No, he's like, I still gave you my peace. You still have my peace. You're still redeemed. You're still saved. You're still my child. I love that about God. And that's why I'm going to peace out today and trust him for today. I hope you join me. Have a great day. See you again tomorrow.